Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hello? Hello?
Oh, no, I'm just going to sing, because it's already 5:10. You've done kirtan already, so enough kirtan. And my kirtan nowhere near this nice, so I'll be. Alright, so we're going to do Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're going to do a wonderful verse, and it is chapter 13, text 22. So I'm going to turn to that. We'll sing this verse that Lord Krishna sang, 13:22. It's going to be on page 553. Everybody's here, yay. All the boys. Oh yeah, boys class. You close your ears. It's going to be special boys. Really? Oh.
These are some of the symptoms of Kali Yuga.
That means you're good brahmachari. You should brahmachari school. Training.
All right, there'll be a different class about the realities of household life another time, but not today. Not today. Today we're going to read from Bhagavad-gita. All right. Purusha prakritisto hi bhunkte prakritijan gunan karanam guna sangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. Someone else? Purusha prakritisto hi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. Prakritisto hi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sarasad yoni janmasu. Purusha prakritisto hi bhunkte prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sangosya sad asad yoni janmasu. All right, let's do the word for word. Purusha, the living entity. Prakriti staha, being situated in the material energy. He, certainly, bhunkte, enjoys. Prakriti jan, produced by the material nature. Gunan, the modes of nature. Karanam, the cause. Gunasanga, the association with the modes of nature. Asya, of the living entity. Sat asat, in good and bad. Yoni, species of life. Janmasu, in births. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. Please repeat. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. So let's. Have we got a second mic? Oh, does someone want to start reading? Tell me you can start. Or yep, you can start. Anybody, either of you, that's fine.
Purport. This verse is very important for an understanding of how the living entities transmigrate from one body to another. It is explained in the second chapter that the living entity is transmigrating from one body to another just as one changes dress. This change of dress is due to his attachment to material existence. As long as he is captivated by the false manifestation, he has to continue transmigrating from one body to another.
Due to his desire to lord it over material nature, he is put into such undesirable circumstances. Under the influence of material desire, the entity is born sometimes as a demigod, sometimes as a man, sometimes as a beast, as a bird, as a worm, as an aquatic, as a saintly man, as a bug. This is going on, and in all cases the living entity thinks himself to be the master of his circumstances, yet he is under the influence of material nature.
I'm just getting used to the how loud the mic is, one sec. How he is put into such different bodies is explained here. It is due to association with the different modes of nature. One has to rise, therefore, above the three material modes and become situated in the transcendental position. That is called Krishna consciousness. Unless one is situated in Krishna consciousness, his material consciousness will oblige him to transfer from one body to another because he has material desires since time immemorial. But he has to change that conception. That change can be effected only by hearing from authoritative sources. The best example is here. Arjuna is hearing the science of God from Krishna, a living entity. If he submits to this hearing process, he will lose his long-cherished desire to dominate material nature, and gradually and perpetually, as he reduces his long desire to dominate, he comes to enjoy spiritual happiness.
In a Vedic mantra, it is said that he becomes learned in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He proportionately relishes his eternal blissful life.
Do you want to just read the verse again? The living entity in the bold up the top.
Oh, yeah. The living entity in material nature thus follows the way of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species.
Very good. Do you want to just grab that? You can put the book on this. At least put it on that. Or, especially not on the floor. Yeah, that's better. The book. Yeah. That's better. All right. So very deep verse. There's so many ways we can look at this verse. But what I thought we'd discuss today was really, I guess, the topic of what we're trying to really meditate on today is what's the cause of our suffering? What's the cause of our suffering? Just in the last couple of days, I've been thinking about this, and we're all suffering in this world. And of course, as Srila Prabhupada is saying here in the purport, that as we give up the long-cherished desire to dominate material nature, we gradually and proportionately, as we reduce this long desire, we come to enjoy spiritual happiness. So in proportion to stopping trying to enjoy and exploit and control the material nature, we proportionally enjoy spiritual happiness and we stop suffering. But we're all on that path, right? All of us here. You know, I mean, Srila Prabhupada, he's from there. He's not suffering materially because he's not trying to dominate at all. He's not trying to control the material world. So anyway, I was thinking how I'm suffering, and then I was thinking, oh, whose fault is it? And then I thought of this verse. So I thought we'd talk about this today, because even if we don't, realize it, or even if we don't acknowledge it consciously, this is a pretty big deal for all of us, and it's certainly a big deal in the world today, that everybody's pointing. They've got the finger, who's causing their suffering. It's him, What do they say when you got one finger pointing at someone else, you got three pointing back at you? Right? This is pretty much what Krishna is saying here. So this is a very deep verse to meditate on. I'll just speak for 5 minutes, and then I'd love to hear from you guys. Right? What do you think about this verse and what Krishna is telling us here? But there's just two factors. There's just two aspects of this verse that I want to bring out. Okay, there's just two. Now the first aspect I want you guys to check out is the first word of this verse, right? The first word in Sanskrit, Purusha. Now Purusha is a sort of a technical Sanskrit word, and Srila Prabhupada's translated it as the living entity. Sometimes it's translated as a person. And you might have heard it when we sing the prayers in the morning. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham. Right, that Purusha, the Adi Purusha. So Adi means the original. So Purusha means like the controller of energies. Right, the Purusha. That's what it sort of technically means. So Krishna, or God, he's the Adi Purusha. He's the original controller of energies. Right. Now elsewhere in the Gita, in chapter 7, verse 4 and 5, right? Don't worry about going there. I'll just tell you quickly that Krishna says, he describes the situation living entity of the Jiva soul. He says that we are actually energy. So we are energy. We are carried away this and that way. We have carried away. Our natural position is that we're energy. We're naturally in love of God in the spiritual world. We're all carried away with divine energy. We're floating in that divine energy. That's our swarup. Jivara swarupa hoy Krishnara nitya das. We're eternally serving that divine whole spirit. That's our position. We're actually energy. Prakriti. He describes earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Then he says, beyond these, there's the living entity. Apariyamitasthanyam prakritim vidi me param. He says, Jiva Bhuta, this Jiva is also Prakriti, is energy, right? So very interesting that when we come to this 13th chapter, he describes us in a different way. He's talking about us with this word, Purusha. He's talking about us. He's not talking about himself. So why is he doing that? He's doing that because he's explaining to us this is the consciousness we take on when we come into this material conditioned life. We take on that consciousness of Purusha, of controller. And it's unnatural. It's very natural for us, obviously. We've been doing it for millions of lifetimes. But from the point of view of the soul and from the perspective of pure souls, it's very unnatural. We're energy. We're meant to flow with energy. You see? We're meant to be in that subordinate position. We're tiny spiritual sparks. We're meant to take shelter of energy. And it's unnatural for us to be in that position of controller. But this is how Krishna is describing it. So that's the first point I just wanted to make here. He's talking about us when we take that position of trying to control, to be the little Lord, the little God, right? Of course, we don't try to control the sun and the moon and all that. Nobody tries that. We subconsciously we know we're not really the controller, but we try to make our own little orbiter and control in this world, which is unnatural from the point of view of the pure souls and from Krishna's. So that's the first point. And the second point I want you to look at is the third line. It's in the second line here because we've got the slokas written just out in 2 lines. So the third part of the sloka, Karanam guna sango sya. So Karana means what? The cause. Did anybody know another sloka, famous sloka? We've heard that word Karanam? No, I know you know. Karanam. And it's actually from the same prayer that we were talking about before, Govindamadi Purusham, Brahma Samhita. And you read any bit of Brahma Samhita? The first verse of Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adi Govinda Sarva means all, Karana, Karanam, the cause of all causes. Who's heard that in English? You've heard that? The cause of all causes. It's a name for God. So what caused this? That. What caused that? That. Go right back. What makes the car go? The petrol. Where'd the petrol come from? They dug the refinery. Where did they get that? They dug it from under the sea. Where did that come from? The trees. Where did that come from? The sun's energy. Where does the sun energy come from? The cause of all causes. The ultimate source. God, right? So Karana means the cause. So not Sarva Karanam. Karanam Guna Sangosha. Guna means modes of material nature, right? Guna Sangha. What does Sangha mean? Association, yeah. It's another word for what we're doing now, isn't it? They say a Sangha. Oh yeah, so we had a Sangha, right? A Sangha means an association. Sometimes they say like that. Discussing Krishna consciousness, it's a Sangha. So it's an association. We're associating with Krishna through the words. So Sangha just means association. So Karanam, the cause, Guna, these material modes, goodness, passion, ignorance, all the different qualities. Karanam Guna Sango Sya. Guna Sango, associating with material nature. That's the cause of what? Sat Asat. Sat just means eternal or auspicious. Asat means inauspicious. Good and evil, Prabhupada's written. So good or bad situations. Sat Asat Yoni. Yoni means to take birth. Janma means to take birth. Yoni means like the womb. So in other words, different species. So this is a second point, is that Krishna is saying here, what is the cause of good and bad things coming? It's simply that. It's simply what you associate with, the qualities that you associate with. This is, something that we have. We have control over this one thing. Sometimes described. What can we control? How much can we control? How much can we understand? Can we control how our hair is growing on our head even? What to speak of outside our body, other people? How much can we control other things? If we really think about it. Can we convince somebody against their will that, this is that, this is that? Not much. But we can control one thing. We can control what we associate with. Right? And this is what Krishna is saying, that your ability, your future, bright or dark, good or bad, that's determined by what you're associating with right now. Right? That's the cause of suffering. If you want a good future, associate with sattvic things, right? We know what sattvic means, right? Sattva, rajas, tamas. Mode of goodness, right? If we associate with the mode of goodness, and we associate with transcendental, Suddha Sattva, transcendence, the mantras, the different worship of the Lord that's beyond Sattva even, but Sattva and above, then our future is that. And we can, understand that whatever we're suffering now, it's due to what we decided to associate with originally. That's the cause, right? Sometimes this is seen as, that's like fatalistic, it's like all about determination. No, it's not, because that cause, that association, who decided to associate with those modes? You. I did. You did. You did. You did. You did. You did. Right? So so is that this body that we've got now, that we're suffering in this body, right? This body that we've got now, according to this verse, that's due to what? Association with certain modes of nature, right? We weren't associating with pure goodness to get this body. right? Now, who decided to associate with those modes? We did. Huh? We decided, right? We made a decision. And now we have this body. So this body is our destiny. Right? This gets into the whole thing of destiny and free will. What is it? Is it destiny or is it free will? One day we'll just give a whole class on and or, but this is a classic example of and or. Is it and or is it or? Is it destiny or is it free will? You just got to change the or to an and. It's destiny and free will, right? The destiny is what we've got now, what we're working with. But right now we have the choice. We may not be able to just chant, 100 rounds a day and eat one palmful of rice. We're not on that level. We can't do that. We have a certain body. But in this body we can decide, all right, am I going to go down the pub and get drunk? Or am I going to go to kirtan, control my senses and try to go deeper into bhakti? What am I going to do? And there's two very different, right, associations, two very different modes. One's a mode of ignorance, one's a mode of goodness and above. And that association then creates our destiny. A week later, right? A week later, where a person who has done bhakti seriously for a week, then we feel, oh, I feel a bit different. Now we're here. Now again we can decide, okay, what am I going to do? Do you understand? Yeah. So that the destiny or the body that we have, the situation we have, is a crystallization of our free will. It's our free will crystallized into one situation, and then from there, then we again decide with our free will, within the bounds of that. Right? To give a really gross example, if we go really in tamas and come back as a pig or something like that, we're very limited of free will. It's just like you can eat over here or eat over there. It becomes very limited. The more we get into ignorance, the less our free will is there. Even in human society, if we do very ignorant things, harm other people, what happens? Eventually we get put in jail. And then we go to jail. And then we go, no, I still don't accept that it's my fault. Everyone fighting, okay, go into solitary confinement. So the more we get into the lower modes, the more our consciousness is restricted. Isn't that interesting? We think that we're free, right? Oh, I'm free to do anything. I run along the beach, smoke whatever I want, drink whatever I want, do whatever I want with whoever I want. That's what we think. That's what, hopefully we don't think that. But that's what the modern think, that's what they're telling you. That's what the ads are going to tell you, right? Drink this, standing in the free, yeah, you're free. But we can analyze very clearly, the more we associate with ignorance, the more we're bound up, the less free we are, right? The more we associate with sattva, the more free we are. So karanam guna sangasha, the cause is what we are associating with, and we have full control over that. That's up to us. We're creating our future every second. Okay, they're the two main things I want to bring out. So we've got half an hour. Hare Krishna. Anyone like to take the mic and share some of your insights about these topics? Anyone? Go for it. Huh? What's that? Turn it on. There's eager people on the internet joining in to this Sangha.
Hello? Testing. Yeah, I think these boys just wanted me to say something because we had a deep chat before we got here. And I said if something comes to mind, I'll say something, but nothing has really come to mind just yet. I could think of something, but maybe come back to the mic if someone wants to have a question.
Yeah,
now.
sure.
I'm happy to
That's
share
cool.
it, and then I can think about something.
That's fine. No, sounds good. They're setting you up, right? They want to hear that. It's definitely a boys' class. We've got that boy energy, cowherd boy energy here. Somebody's stealing the other one's lunchbox. Somebody's like, here, you take the mic, say something. Balaram Purnima's coming up Tuesday, so we're getting into the Bala here.
That's exciting.
So these are the 2 points. If you have any thinking about these 2 points, which is firstly that that's encoded in this verse. The incredible amount of information in this verse, right? That we've just pulled out 2 little pieces. One is that we take that position of enjoy in the material world, Purusha, right? The first verse, the first word of this shloka. And secondly, that we are creating our future according to what we're associating with, right? Our happiness, our distress is according to what we associate with. And we have the control. We have the ability to decide what our association is. Once we've decided our association, very difficult, right? Once we're in a tamasic association, we get affected. We're tiny, small particles of spirit soul. So we get affected. But we have the choice to decide our association, right? So they're the two main things, yeah. So what do you think, Tom?
Yeah, it's amazing how, like, we're in this material world as a soul in a body, but how much influence the material world has on us if we're not coming from a point of like even the knowledge of that we're a soul, or yeah, and Prabhupada says in the translation, thus meets with good and evil among various species. What would be considered like evil in other species apart from human? I know humans are capable of evil things, but in the way of like other species, I would look at them as kind of just that's the way they are. Whereas human beings are capable of both.
It's just pretty much it's all evil. Like the animal kingdom, it's just sub-evil, all evil, complete. They'll just eat the eggs of the other animal.
True.
They'll just, right down to some animals will mate and then eat the guy that mated with them, their own
Spiders.
species, their own husband.
Yeah, true.
So that's pretty evil.
Yeah, that's a good point actually.
But that and they don't even think about it. That's just their nature. Deep tamas, right? We're talking deep tamas.
Yeah.
And that's why we think, some people say, oh, I'll come back as a bird or something. But if you actually watch animals, you look at a bird, as soon as they're down the ground trying to get that worm, they're looking everywhere. Where's the cat? What's it there? They're constantly in fear, unless you're at the top of the food chain, a lion or something. But even, sometimes we watch the documentaries, right, Gal? And we see those lions. And those guys, they can go for days, weeks, sometimes. They just starve to death. They just can't catch anything. So they're in the best situation. Everyone else under them is getting eaten, grab the neck. And so
on a consciousness level, it's kind of like hellish realms.
it's fully hellish. Animal life is fully hellish.
Yeah.
Unless you're a cow and you govern. But,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is transcendental. But, sad asad yoni janmasu. So, in different species, it's just, it's I won't say the word, comes to mind, but it's a horror show, It's just being in the animal species. And Krishna says that, what is that verse? Save one from the greatest type of fear. What is that verse? Only a little bit of this. What's the first line of that? Neha Bikram Nashasti. But do you want to say it? Go on. Yes, yeah. Sva'alpam api asya dharmasya. Alpa means little. Even in rudimentary Bengali, as such as myself, know that alpa means little. So sva'alpa, su-alpa, very little. Su-alpa, api, even asya dharmasya. This religious practice, even a little bit of trayate can save you, right? Trayate, mahato, the great bhaya, fear, the greatest fear. And that greatest fear, as Prabhupada and the Acharyas explain, is taking birth in an animal form. Yeah. It's the greatest fear because you lose, you have no idea who you are, where you are, what you're doing, and everybody's trying to kill you.
True. Yeah,
it's a war zone. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. And like we think from a Christian perspective that the hellish realm is some like, you're surrounded by molten lava or getting poked by demons or whatever, boiling in a cauldron or something. But if you look at it that's kind of what animals are experiencing in a way, compared to what humans get to experience. It's very Yeah, it makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
definitely. There's that verse. What is that verse? By it's in Gita that in goodness you become demigod, in passion you become a human, and in ignorance you become an animal. What is that verse? Anyway, there's another verse there that says the exact same thing.
Yeah. And looking at that, it's like, wow, this knowledge is so deep and profound compared to, there's these, religions and stuff that have, there's heaven and there's hell, but it's like, it's kind of just speculating what that is, but these are kind of, really.
It's very deep. I mean, there's...
Yeah.
Yeah, and also to your point about this particular knowledge, like this Bhagavad-gita, compared to other traditions, if we look at the Judeo-Christian especially, like the original teachings that Jesus gave, at least what we see now, they're totally in accord with Bhagavad-gita. They're exactly the same. You have to, show compassion to everyone else, treat other people as if you'd like to be treated, and at the same time try to develop your love for God. You have to practice charity and all these sattvic things, selfless activities. But it's just that the detail is not there, even in the original teachings. And the people that he was preaching to weren't the type of people that are receiving the knowledge here, so that the level of detail is not there. As well, historically, there's some, especially around the 3rd century AD, there's all these councils where the Roman Empire integrated Christianity and it became the Holy Roman Empire, and then they had to, all right, when they were the ones that killed Jesus, the Romans. But then few centuries later, Christianity becomes so popular that said, well, we've got to integrate it into it. So they made the Holy Roman Empire. So then they had to figure out what do we believe, what we don't believe. And this is a whole, you can research if you want one day, but there's a whole history of how they systematically took out, for example, teachings of reincarnation, just so that they basically said, these people are pretty simple. If you tell them there's another life, they have another chance, they won't bother. They'll just, it doesn't matter. They wanted to make it really clear, no, there's one life, that's it, man. If you don't do it now, that's it, you're going to hell. Like this, they even the original teachings given by the Acharya, given by the Son of God, Jesus, even those original teachings, although they were perfect for the time, but they were not as developed as the Vedas. But even those teachings were then adjusted in a certain ways. And I think there's a lot of people who grew up with Christianity that's kind of the deal breaker. It's like, how is it that a kid that's 2 years old that dies of cancer at 2 and never had the chance to meet you, how is he going to hell eternally? That doesn't make sense. That can't make sense. Whereas the Vedic is very clear, and I think we had a few weeks ago, right? We had that class where the Vedas makes it clear there's 2 kinds of energy. There's only 2 things really in the universe. There's things that never change. The consciousness of living entities goes from childhood to birth, old age, beyond that, whatever. Never changes. And there's things that are constantly changing. That's the body. So the idea that there's something that didn't exist before, then is created, and then exists eternally, it's just not a category of knowledge. It's either exists outside the realm of time, material time, or it's within material time. That's it. So you can't have, you're born, there's one life, and then you go to hell or heaven eternally. It's philosophically it's not a good argument. So, yeah.
And that's, I guess, like intelligent people, they're given the idea of God and they kind of turn away from it because there's not really intelligent idea of who he is or anything, but this is complete philosophy.
Many people like that. Many followers of Christian consciousness were brought up as Christian, and they don't see any. It's not a that or that. It's just say I'm a much. Actually, literally the other day I was listening to a class by Mahatma Prabhu, and I think he was saying literally this. He said, "I feel I'm much more of a better Christian now. I understand Christ." Jayapataka Swami, my spiritual master, he definitely says that as well. He was an altar boy, he was very devout Christian, but he feels like he understands Jesus' message so much more now as a devotee than he did within that tradition, because it's the same message. It's just fleshed out, given more detail.
Hare Krishna. I'm very grateful for these lessons, especially about association. It's very becomes much more clear for me, like the path or the process of becoming more, more entangled with good things, like
That's a good way to say it. Yeah.
And it's not like, and so I can, because I used to have this belief, or I still do have this belief in this way of processing it, where, like, seeing now that if I fall into either modes of goodness or modes of ignorance, that I become entangled in them in a way that's that can become attachment or aversion, right? So these are like what I came to understand as Buddhist principles around sources of suffering. And
Do you mean, sorry, just to interrupt, but when you said when you get entangled with goodness or ignorance, did you mean passion or ignorance? Is that what you mean?
Passion or ignorance, yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, just hold it a bit closer, yeah.
sorry. And yeah, so I'm just wondering how you would kind of go a bit deeper into like the attachment or the aversion aspect of our sources of suffering, and how the Gita kind of expands on that particular aspect.
Yeah, that is the attachment. That's the essence of it, attraction and aversion, and that's why. Thank you for the question and the line, and that's why pure devotees don't, they don't feel that aversion, they don't feel that loss, because they have no attraction. You mentioned Buddhism, and I guess the sort of the difference in the method and the difference in the application and the difference in the ultimate result is that the process of dealing with that attachment and aversion, as outlined in Gita, is primarily a method of attaching to something higher. I'm not an expert on Buddhism, but I did before I took up Krishna consciousness. I did read Tibetan Book of the Dead, and I got right into it. I tried to understand what they were saying there, and my general understanding is that in Buddhism the ultimate goal is that we free ourselves from attachment and aversion. The cause of suffering is like the noble truths. The cause of suffering is this attachment and aversion. So to stop suffering, we have to stop that attachment and aversion. And with that, the paths are the same. They both agree. Krishna says, Vita Raga Bhayokrata, like this attachment, this aversion, that is what binds us to the material world. But where Buddhism says that the primary goal is giving that up, and when you've given that all up, and then there's nothing left, then you can be peaceful. That's the essence, I think, of Buddhism. Like it's a huge philosophy. I don't want to minimize it, but that's the essence of it. And therefore the process is a process of giving up, letting go. And the difference with Krishna consciousness is the process is a grabbing hold of. And we give the funny example, like, okay, everybody, I want you to just try this little thing. I want everybody to not think about a pink elephant. Don't think about a pink. Don't think about that pink elephant. Don't think about that pink elephant. I do not want you to think about it. Stop it. Stop thinking about the pink elephant, please. Don't picture it. So like that, it's a silly example, but it's a microcosm of the whole process. Is that the mind naturally wants to attach to something, and this is in terms of Vedanta, or the final conclusion of Vaishnavism versus Buddhism or impersonalism. The final conclusion is that there is a living entity. We do exist. Now that's a really important thing to note, because in Buddhism essentially what they're saying is we don't exist. In impersonalism what they're essentially saying is we don't exist separately. It's all one or something. Somebody was telling me the other day, they said to the something, one of the impersonalists, and said, what do you like? Thank you for the lecture or something. There is no me. You gave the lecture too, or something like that. It was like, there's no difference. But the important thing is that in Vaishnavism, they're saying that we, as a separate, pure entity, we exist, right? And yes, this attachment and aversion is our problem, but the solution is not to just give up all existence, because we do exist as a pure soul. And that pure soul is not just an impersonal light, that pure soul is actually the source of all relationship, the source of all emotion. It has all that in it. When we read the Krishna book, it's just a small slice of the spiritual world. And we read from the acharyas who are on that platform. They talk about the intense emotion, the intense activities and everything that go on on the pure level. So rather than becoming less, we become more a person, but a pure person. And that can only really be in relationship to the Supreme Person, and that's the essential difference. So it's I'll direct you to one verse. Vishya vinivartante niraharasya dena rasa vajam rasopyasya panam justra nivartate. I don't know what I'll just look it up. Vishaya, because in this verse it really answers your question in detail of dealing with the attraction and aversion. Vishaya Vishya vinivartante, 259, chapter 2, text 59. Which is on page 125. Vishya vinivartante niraharasya dena rasa vajam rasopiyasya param justva nivartate. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste is fixed in consciousness. Page 125. Right? You know this verse, right? You've heard this verse? Yeah. So this is what we... so in Christian consciousness, of course, we have to do the negative things. We have to not do that, we have to not do that, we have to not do that. Essentially, we have to try to avoid associating with passion and ignorance. Even we can see, just spend an hour scrolling Facebook or whatever, and then just see how disturbed and how your mind is like, all over the place, right? And that's just in the mind. What to speak of if you get to the senses, people who are regularly every day going out, putting intoxication, putting whatever into their brains and into their bodies as well. So we have to do that. We have to not associate with tamas. We have to not do that. But that's not the heart of the process. That's not the heart. That's not the essence of the process. Whereas in most other traditions, and many of the impersonal traditions, for example, they don't even start until you take sannyas. You begin when you take sannyas. All right, you've finished with your family life, you've done all that, you've tried to fulfill your material desires and whatever. Oh, now you're serious? All right, now you take sannyas and you give up everything. Because that's their process, is giving up. Whereas our process is attaching, getting a higher taste. So we have to do that lower stuff. If we keep associating with ignorance and passion, it's like trying to start a fire and pour water on at the same time. It's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. but the focus is trying to get a higher taste, because we understand what Krishna is saying here is you might do that for a week, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's just the right thing to do. I'm just going to control myself. You might do that, but you won't be able to keep doing it unless you have a higher taste. And when you have a higher taste, it's very easy to give up the lower taste. It's not a struggle. It's like these little children, like they're so, look at them, they're so into the coloring, the books and everything else like that. Now you go and try it. No, I'm not asking you, don't do this. Don't try this at home. I'm not suggesting you do this, but just imagine if you go and try to take that coloring book off, and no, I want to color, no, it's my color, no, it's my, it'd be a whole big thing. Now contrast that with go and walk over there with a huge big prasadam plate of halava with cream and milk sweets and everything, and look, they're even here, they're just thinking about it. That coloring book is going to be dropped so fast, they don't know where that coloring book's gone. Right? Higher taste. Right? That's why the cookbook's called the higher taste. Right? We offer prasadam with a higher taste. Who wants to eat some gross thing in a packet in a supermarket compared to prasad? Holy well, yeah. So this is the gift we have, and we should hook into that gift. We need to embrace that gift. We don't want to be bhaktas trying to practice Buddhism in bhakti. We practice a bit of Buddhism, the getting free from the modes. That is the same. We have to do that. That's what we have to do. But ultimately, we have to try to connect with the higher taste. And yeah. Okay.
And just my final thought, I guess, on it is, I really love that the Hare Krishna movement and this religion is it seems such a far more natural way of understanding our own nature and knowing that we are beings that become attached. And if we direct that attachment towards the higher taste, the higher spirituality, it just feels more in alignment with the process that I can actually do.
Yes.
And that and it's like there's this understanding that I have to go through this process of experiencing these other modes. As long as there's that higher taste and the desire for achieving that higher taste, then the other things will start naturally falling away as well, because it's just in accordance to this process that's unfolding.
Yeah. Beautiful, thank you. Yes, Hare Krishna, very nice. We're still waiting from the great statement from the back here to come.
For me, it's, what I'm trying to achieve with dropping material attachments is ultimately the peace and the higher taste.
Yeah.
But it's also a process that would try to help with not fearing death, like a fear of death.
Yes.
And that's a process that would really help with that. But I just find it's more difficult and harder said than done.
Yes.
Is there a process in Krishna consciousness that helps you go beyond the fear of death, or just like where you can really just truly align your desires, where you purely only want God, therefore you don't fear death, but it's always something. Yeah, do you have anything to share on?
Yeah, it's the same process, but in terms of fearing death, it's really to the degree that we are identifying and living on that level of being a soul, to that degree we're not fearful of death anymore. If somebody fully just thinks if someone has no spiritual aspiration, whatever, and they just think I'm this body, like death is very fearful, and they'll deal with it in different ways, and they won't say that. They generally won't admit that. Sometimes they do, but as death gets closer, you can see. I'm seeing with people around me that I know that have this kind of philosophy. So that's like zero. So 0% God consciousness, 0% soul consciousness, 100% fear, because it's just fear of the unknown. They have no idea where you're going. And as you progress, like it's really everything in Krishna consciousness. It's about realization. In other words, it's about actually directly perceiving that. That's chapter 9, verse 2, right? Pratyakshavagamam dharmyam. It's a directly perceived religion, We sometimes in the West we're used to this kind of religion, like, you know, you come in and then, all right, do you believe? I believe. Yes, you're saved. You know, it's like it's not. But it's not. Krishna consciousness is not that easy, because it's really changing the actual the whole situation of your consciousness to being in the material world, not just saying, yeah, like we said, I think a few weeks ago, it's a political statement. You know, the conquistadors or the whatever, what do they call, the crusaders would come through and, you know, are you my religion? Yes, okay, yes, you live. Are you my religion? No, all right, kill him. Then the next guy in line's like, well, I think I might become this religion. Sounds like a good thing for me and my family right now. So it's a political statement, and we still in the Western world, we're still influenced by that. You know, yes, I believe. It's a big deal, but internally it's not a big deal, because the next day you can say I don't believe. So Krishna consciousness is like, what are you perceiving? Krishna says this again and again and again. He doesn't say, are you in my religion? He says, what do you have these qualities? Arjuna says, what are the qualities of someone? He says, someone that sees everybody equally. Doesn't think, oh, he's in my tribe, he sees everyone equally, because he's seeing the soul. What to speak of humans, the elephant, the dog, you know, he's seeing like that. So the more you see like that, you see, well, this body ends, oh, big deal.
So I guess it's an experiential understanding as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And a feeling
because
process.
That's what sorry?
And it's also a feeling process.
It's a feeling. It's a feeling of fear. The feeling of death. The fear of death is a feeling. You're experiencing that, right?
Yeah.
It's not just, theoretically, I'm worried that when I die, I don't know. No, it's a fear. It's like, oh my God, what's going to happen to me? So that it's in the mind, it's in the emotions. That can only be addressed by experiencing. That's why Krishna says, rasavajam rasopyasa param drishva. Drishva means to see. Drishva means to see, to directly perceive that. So to the degree we're perceiving that, and it's just the same answer. I don't want to say, you know, it's the same answer, but it really is the same answer of just practicing better, chanting really nicely. But it takes time. It takes time. Real change takes time. You know, that caterpillar, he's gone from one leaf to the other. He gets the other leaf, it wiggles on, then gradually lets go of the other leaf. You know, like it's like it takes time. So we have to be patient with ourselves as well. You know, knowing that we're on the process, but at the same time we can see day by day, week by week. Suddenly our consciousness is changing. We're like, well, if I keep doing this for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, my consciousness is going to be radically different to what it was when I began. But it takes time, because it's a real process. It's really changing our attachment. And if we say, you know, I'm fully attached to something, you know, I'm completely in love with this thing or that person, whatever, and then the next day, no, I hate it. Is that true? No, you're still attached. Come on, give me a break. Isn't it? But gradually you get attached to something better. Then you're, yeah, I used to really like that type of thing, car, person, whatever. But you know, I've got this other thing I'm into now. Then you can understand if a friend says like that, right? So like that, we've got thousands of lifetimes of attachment to that. Yeah. It's 6 o'clock. Yeah. What does that mean? I have to stop now. Yeah, there's no band practice today, so we're not going to this house. Sorry. Normally I go to band practice and he comes and sees his friend, so no, that's okay. Got my little helpers here. So yeah, because it's a real thing, it takes time. It takes time, so we have to be patient. But that's the only solution. There's no material solution to not being fearful of the destruction of something material. It's fearful. Materially, yeah, it's fearful. The more we get that spiritual shelter, then, you know, but that takes time. We're on that path.
And what about the people that choose to leave their bodies, or they have an understanding of this, or the process of understanding the transition from death? Does that come in with Krishna consciousness? The understanding.
When you say they choose to leave their body? Chandra, sit down. Chandra, just sit down.
Well, I remember in my YTT course last year, Lakshivam was talking about a great wise sage or a great guru that could leave his body and then he could come back and then he'd be like, "Told you so." But you don't have to come back all the time necessarily. And there was just stories he would mention about.
Yeah.
He'd have his last meal and then go off and then like leave his body and transition to his next course of evolution.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many stories like that, but they're yogis. They've practiced for years and lifetimes, actually.
Yeah, okay.
To be able to leave their body at will. But even that, you can hear about astral traveling and different people that do that. But definitely wouldn't recommend it.
So it's not really Krishna consciousness.
Is it what?
Like, does Krishna consciousness cover that section of like?
Yeah.
When it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yogis, that's one of the siddhis, to be able to leave your body and to go somewhere else and then come back into your body. But it's just, that's within the Vedic paradigm.
Yeah.
But we just don't really focus on that because it doesn't get you out of the body. You're still in material consciousness.
Yeah, I think it's not for the goal just to do it because you can. It's more just for the goal of like taking on your next course of evolution.
Not really, because the devotee thinks more in terms of like, when Krishna wants me to leave the body, then I'll leave the body.
Yep.
You know, that's the devotee surrendered.
Yeah, okay.
So
that's actually a beautiful process.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a process of surrendering and embracing the divine will, and that includes when it's time to leave the body as well. And we're open to that. So we don't try to overly control the world. Krishna gives us cancer and in 6 months we leave, it's fine. If he wants to stay for another 30 years, then we stay. That's just a symptom of surrender. Yogis are trying to control subtle energies and things. It's not a devotional.
Thank you for clarifying the devotion part with the surrender. Thank you. That really helped. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I think Govinda's told us we have to stop now. Timekeeper. Is there any final thing? That's good. I think it's Prasham time here. All right, thanks for coming, guys. Nice to share with you. Take care. Have a great week. Hare Krishna. Did you want to say something?
There's a question, but you probably have got not enough time for it. So.
Give the question, I'll give a 1-minute answer.
Okay, well, Aiden actually had a question, so I'll say it for him. He's just a bit shy at the moment.
Okay.
Something, it's to do with ojas and vidya. Like,
Yes.
what is the importance for a man to retain his vital fluids and things along that line? So.
It's okay, so it's important, and at the same time it's not the primary thing. It's a support. So in the same way that this yogic ability to leave the body, that is a material thing. So anything to do with the body, yoga and it is important. It helps, especially in young age. Prabhupada said that the more you can retain that, the better. It gives you strength. So that's a fact. At the same time, we don't make anything the focus other than Krishna. So everything is in proportion. We don't go too far down any other track. In other words, we don't make the rule as Krishna consciousness is that rule. We don't say, all right, to control my ojas, that's it. And now I control my ojas, right, now I'm being successful, now I'm Krishna conscious. No, now I control my ojas. Now that is helpful in Krishna consciousness, just like having petrol in your car is helpful to go out on Harinam. All of these things are helpful and they should be done. And different people will have different emphases on those. Certain people are more kind of have a yogic kind of background and a yogic thing, and they say, oh, I really want to, focus on that, do the asanas, all of these things. That's where they're focusing. But we don't want that to carry us away, if that makes sense. That's not the goal, but it's a very good assistant. Does that make sense?
For a young person, like I said, we have to engage our senses in a higher service and
Yes.
higher taste.
Yes.
But for, say, like a young man or a young person, there's obviously a lot of hormones going through the system and stuff.
Yes.
And even if you are trying to engage in a higher taste,
Yeah.
it can be like, a stampeding herd of bulls
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah,
So-
so that's why in Christian consciousness there is the institution of marriage, where one can be married and you can have relations with your wife, you can bring up nice children in that relationship, and it's very, very auspicious that you'll just, we have children here. So that's there. But for example, in my case, like I have kids and a number of kids, but I was brahmachari for 5 years. So for 5 years I just put all that on hold. I don't know about it, and I just focused on my spiritual life. I read Bhagavatam every morning, half an hour, chanted my rounds, learned lots of slokas. I did that for 5 years. So then when I got into that whole sphere of marriage life, then I was able to have very strong basis, okay, this is the goal of my life. I experienced that, of being free from all of that. And then, it hasn't been perfect, but I'm still here. I'm still here, I'm still trying, I'm still practicing. So to whatever degree we can act on that level and just put those desires to the side for some time, whatever that time is, and that's the first thing, then that's very good for us. If we understand that on this path, we're not asking you to be a sannyasi, we're not asking you to give that up. We're not saying that isn't going to be disturbing. It's disturbing. We understand that. But for some time, if you can just put that to the side, your mind will say, what about this? Okay, fine. Every 5 minutes. What about that? That's okay. We can get married later on. That's okay. Now let's just do this. Let's focus on this. It gives you a very strong grounding. And then you're getting married in a context of spirituality as being the focus. Now, if you never have those years or months or whatever it is, but sometime, if you never have that time, then you can still practice. That's fine. But let me say in the positive, it's a very positive thing to have that. So it's not that, it's just delaying it for some time, and then you make yourself a good devotee. You're initiated devotee, you've been practicing, you've fixed up whatever. Then what happens is you become qualified to have a wife who's a nice devotee, who's a fixed up devotee, who's initiated, who's whatever. And then suddenly you can have a relationship where you're both putting Krishna in the center, right? But still, you're having children, whatever you're doing, but Krishna is in the center. You're doing it with a devotee. You have to get yourself to that point where you can be qualified to do that. And that's another aspect of it. That's essential. Essentially, Mahatma Prabhu talks about this a lot, that once you get married, you better be happy that you're going to become like that person, because that's what's going to happen. If you if you marry someone, literally, you talk about Sangha. This whole class has been at Karanam Guna Sangosha, right? The cause of our future is what we associate with. So you want to marry a woman, right? You want to marry a woman that's really into tamas and really into rajas and everything. You're associating with rajas and tamas day in, day out. What's going to happen to your consciousness? We know it's going to be rajas, tamas, right? So we become qualified. If we become fixed up devotees, we can become qualified to marry another fixed up devotee. Then suddenly we're associating day in, day out with Krishna consciousness. It's not perfect. There's always going to be challenges. There's going to be differences. Where it's a material world. That's fine, but at least you're starting from that point. My spiritual master tells one story about a guy in India, a devotee in India, and he married this woman, and she said, "Yeah, I'll become." She wasn't really fixed up devotee, but she said, "Yeah, I'll be whatever." And then one day he comes home and she's just there eating the chicken. I tried for some time, but I just really love the chicken, And he's just like, "Oh, what can I do?" So. Yeah, it's a coarse example, but that's the thing. And again, it's that same principle. We're engaging it in a higher service. We have this hormone as young men, right? That's the thing. That's biologically we're wired. Okay, find a mate, reproduce. That's there. But if you can put that on hold for some time and get your spiritual life together, then you can do that in a much higher frequency. and get so many blessings, right? We need more devotees. We can make devotees, but we have to ourselves be fixed up first. That's the thing. Does it make sense? Hare Krishna. It's understandable. And another thing my spiritual master would just say, that if you're struggling in the beginning, it's a good sign. I said this last time. If you're struggling in the beginning, it's a good sign, because it means you're actually working on something. When someone comes like, yeah, it's fine, yeah, I can do all this one. They're not. No, it's difficult. You're turning your back on, other young guys like you. They're not even thinking about that. Thought never entered their head to try to control their senses. You're going fully against that current, but Krishna sees that. He sees that. He's helping. He's going to help you. You have to keep trying, but it's difficult. But that's why you're getting somewhere, right? When you're climbing a mountain, it's hard, right? Everyone done rock climbing before? Your hands are just aching. Your legs are, because you're climbing a mountain. It's difficult. When you're lying on the beach, you don't feel like that. It's easy. So we're climbing a mountain here. It's going to be difficult, but it's a difficult that every little step that we take, we get an eternal benefit from spiritually and even materially. We're literally changing our karma day by day by day. We're changing our karma by saying no to tamas, no to rajas, yes, embrace sattva. Krishna will take care of things. The devotees are there, they'll give guidance. At the proper time, everything will be taken care of. But we're changing it, we're lifting ourselves to a higher level by doing those things. But there's a bit of grit in there. Okay? Alright, thank you. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah, you can say something. What do you want to say?
Dad.